So Kambi Heywood, where do you live?
I live in a beautiful small community in Canada, in British Columbia, called Cranbrook, BC. We're nestled right in the Rocky Mountains, home of two lovely world-class ski resorts and tons of golf.
Do you ski and golf?
I snowboard.
Nice.
My family and I, we go out every season, and that's my passion in the winter. I love to snowboard. As I get older, I'm 50 now, Carl, so I have to be careful.
Oh, yeah, I no, I get
But
that.
so I don't snowboard as fast as I used to, and I don't take any jumps unless it's a powder day. So that's my
Unless it's a powder.
yeah.
Yeah, that's like some people ski for the thrill, and some people ski for the chill. And it sounds like you might be transitioning over to my camp of I ski for the chill, not the thrill.
Yeah,
So,
and for me, it's the way to connect to my kids and my husband.
good for you.
Mhm.
Awesome. So you're a loan officer in Canada.
I am, and this
So
is
do you write
my
all your loans in Canada? Do you have some U.S. base or is it all Canada?
it's all Canadian based.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool. And how long have you been doing this for?
27 years. I
Good for
hesitate
you.
to say that sometimes to my clients. They're like, "How old are you? Are you
Well, you
still
already spilled the
relatively?"
beans on that.
Yeah,
You already spilled the beans on that.
yeah,
So all right,
yeah.
so 27 year.
Mhm.
And are you a like a non-producing branch manager or producing branch manager? Are you a loan officer in somebody else's shop? What does that look like?
It's structured a little bit differently in Canada, so I'll try and explain. From what I see, my role would be a loan officer. So
Okay.
I have my licensing held under a larger brokerage, and there's about 35 of us under that brokerage. And then
Okay.
I have my own team.
Okay. And your team, is it other loan officers or is it your team that helps you with your production?
One other team member is licensed,
Okay.
and my assistant, as of last week, I'm so excited. She is just starting her licensing as well. So in about 6 months, I hope she would have her license as
So
well.
you're the main producer then. Like you're kind of, yeah, as far as like bringing loans in, you're the main, you're the
I'm
goose.
the main gal, so
You're
I the all of the loans that come through the mortgages would be under my name, and then my team then would work those loans under myself. Yeah.
well, cool. So what, if you don't mind me asking, what's a typical month of production look like for you?
Well, prior to MMA, I look back, going back oh gosh, back to like 2020 to just the
Uh-huh.
last 5 years. And I'm typically closing between 2 to 4 loans prior
Okay.
to MMA.
Okay.
And then from there, currently I'm averaging 9 to 10. So
Good for
it's
you.
really jumped. And the exciting thing for me, Carl, is knowing that it's not like if I were to take myself back to a year from now,
Okay. Okay.
and I even look back because I do journal a ton. I believe in journaling, and I just
Mm.
looked through the other day, and I was future casting, saying, I'm enjoying my job, and I'm closing 12
Mm.
deals a month. You know, at the time I wrote that, Carl, I'm thinking like, I don't know if I can do that. Like, how can I close 12 deals? Like, it's just not going to
Mm.
happen. But now for me, 12 is nothing. I can close 12, I can close 15. So for my following year, for 2025, I've put 15 and I'm confident on that. I know I can get there. Knowing though the journey that what got me here is not the same process as what's going to get me there to 15. It
Mm.
looks a little differently because now I have a team.
Mm. All right. So, oh, right before I hit the record button, you said when we called you up and said, "Hey, we'd love to have you on the podcast so you can share your story." You said, "Well, I've got my notes with me, Carl. What's? I'm just curious. What was on your notes? Like, what was Do you have kind of a layout?"
The big thing that I wrote at the very top of the page is gratitude. And
Mm.
to remember to show gratitude and to start, Carl, I want to thank you and your team. mortgage marketing animals has transformed my business. And this is coming from an old dog that's been doing this 27 years. I look at my job differently. I can future cast and be realistic and know in my mind that I can do this. I know that just gratitude in itself, though, it doesn't get you somewhere. Saying that, though, when I wake up in the morning, I have 2 feet. Most of us have 2 feet. The first thing that I do, and I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and it's a great practice, is the words thank you. So as I get up out of bed and I start walking out off the bed, it's thank you as my feet hit the ground. Thank you. And that really helps me to start my day and to have a mindset of gratitude. But I know, Carl, that gratitude just on its own can only get you so far. I believe you need gratitude with agency. And what I mean with agency is knowing that you have the ability to affect those around you in a positive way, if that makes sense. So if you can bring agency and gratitude together, that's a powerful force. So for myself, agency would be learning how to do the right things. So if I'm getting coached, which I've been getting coached through MMA, and very grateful for that, that gives me that feeling of that ability that I know what I'm doing. I know I'm doing the right activities, and I know that I can affect the world around me. Because if I'm just sitting here in my office and I'm pounding out 15, 20, 30 deals a month, if I'm not affecting the world around me in a positive way, I don't think that's what I want to be doing, you know? So for me, it's making sure that if I have agency and gratitude, I know that fear is an impossibility. I can't have one or both of them at the same time. So fear and gratitude, and this is not something that I have concocted. It's actually scientifically something recently I read, which I found very fascinating, that just like as you breathe, you can't breathe in and out at the same time. A human being is incapable of having a feeling of tremendous fear and having a feeling of gratitude with agency at the same time. It's an impossibility. And I was like, poof, like it just changed my outlook on things, that if I'm going into, say, the DSP, for me, I have my days where maybe I don't want to hit the phones, and that's fear-based, right? So if I can switch that in my mind, Carl, and start focusing on gratitude with my clients, and truly, and it's not calling the client and saying, just calling, thank you for your business. No. I'm calling because I'm truly thankful that they have the trust in me and my team to take care of their mortgage needs, because without them having that trust, I don't have the money to put my kids through university, pay the mortgage, now cover the expenses for my team. It's true gratitude. It really is. So that's kind of where I'm focusing. That's where my mind is these days.
Do you wake up? Do you have a thing like where you? So I like your thank you as you take each step. So instead of hearing the footsteps, you hear first step is thank, second step is you. Do you have, and maybe that's it. Do you have like some sort of like affirmation that you read like in the mornings, or is that your affirmation? Just that simple?
I get up like clockwork. My brain just wakes up. We just sometimes a little earlier than this, but I try not to get up until 6. And from 6 to 6:30, I have the calm meditation. It's just called Calm, which I highly recommend to have. Thousands of little meditations on there, and have these short little meditations. I have my favorite 3. So every morning, 6 o'clock, wake up, and I have from 6 to 6:30 before Loan Officer Breakfast Club to chill. So that's my time to focus. And I listen to these meditations, which takes me to 6:30. Loan Officer Breakfast Club is a fantastic way to start my day, but it's a lot of energy. It's high energy, and it's a lot of content. So I like to start with gratitude and just internalizing, okay, I'm here. Thank you, God, that, I'm awake. I've got my family. I've got my beautiful home. I've got my dog sleeping beside the bed there. To start in that bent really helps me before I log into Loan Officer Breakfast Club, which is 6:30 my time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not quite as early as the true West Coasters. I got an extra hour before I start.
6:30 is early.
6:30 is still very early. No, it
Yeah.
is early. But
Putting on your
I
game face.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been 2 years since I've logged in. The first year I would log in quite faithfully. But I wasn't a member. I'm thinking, here I am getting all this information, and I know there's more out there. And then January, then that's when I became a member, a Freedom Club member. So yeah, so my acts of gratitude through a meditation, and then Loan Officer Breakfast Club would be my way of starting my morning, which is fantastic. And every single morning when I log out of Breakfast Club, there's always something in there that I'm like, wow, I'm glad I logged in. It's great stuff. And it's a great community that you have built, where I know it's grown and grown. There's a lot more people logging in now than a couple of years ago. The word's
Yeah.
out. And
Yeah. Well, they heard you were there.
Oh yes, that's of course.
Yeah. So let me ask you something. So, like going from closing 2 to 4 to now closer to, make sure I wrote this down, like 9 to 10.
Mhm.
What's one thing that you're doing now that you weren't doing then? What's moved the needle for you the most?
There's a few things that have moved the needle. Number one was jumping into um jumping into Freedom Club, and knowing that I have the support and the proper tools. This is coming from someone who has been in the industry at the time, say 26 years, and you think, okay, I should know what I'm doing. But to truly just take what I've learned and kind of throw it to the side a little bit. Say, okay, I'm
Hmm.
going to learn some new tricks here. And what is this DSP? How does the DSP work? And as much as it's a very simple concept, it's actually very deep once you start jumping in to figure out the nuances, the importance of scripting, the importance of community, call stars. Call stars is fantastic, just to go in there and just share your wins. Sometimes sharing frustrations, or just more so not a frustration, but uh, members sharing maybe, well, what do you think about this? Or I'm having this issue. How do I approach this? And always have 3 or 4 people more than willing to jump in and say, well, this is how I approach it, you know? So DSP definitely. Prior to the DSP though, Acts of Freedom. It was just, it completely shifted me. It really did, Carl.
So somebody that might be listening for the first time this episode, explain what is the Axe of Freedom. So Axe is
And
spelled AXE, by the way. So just for our listeners. So what's the Axe of Freedom?
so Acts of Freedom is taking every little thing that you would do as a loan officer and itemizing it all down, listing it, writing it down. And then you start figuring out your 80-20 rule of knowing, okay, here's my big list of what I do in a day. And of that list, I know that maybe 20% of those activities are going to generate 80% of my income. So why am I doing those other 80% activities? So some of those activities, can I delegate them? Can I hire them out? Are they $20 an hour activities? Are they $50 an hour activities? I can maybe have an underwriter work on that, or a fulfillment officer work on these things. Can I bring in technology so that at the end, I'm only focusing on those 20 things, or 20% things, I'm sorry, the
Yeah.
20% that are generating the income for me. And it
Mhm.
pretty quickly shows, when you look at that, okay, it's prospecting. So I'm
Yeah.
looking at the DSP, and then I'm saying, okay, well, how can I build this out? And to be honest, when I first started, albeit my team was it was little, I didn't have as much support as I have now. As I'm writing out my Acts of Freedom for the first time, and then also the annual, the 1-page
Business
business
plan.
plan, and
Okay.
then just time stamping, where you put in, okay, what do you do from 9 to 10? What do you do from 10 to 12? what are you doing there, Cambie? When I look at it, then I'm thinking, okay, I can't see a possibility. Like there's no room for 2 hours of dialing. Like I'm thinking theoretically, like this is fantastic, but this doesn't work for me. Like it's not, how can I come up with 2 hours? And it's like, no, these people are, if these folks can do it, I'm just going to try it. So we start dialing. And then the big thing was communicating with my team that, okay, I'm not available to you between, it's 10 to 12 my time for the
Okay.
West Coast Call Stars. And so they'll even remind, I might be looking through a deal, my underwriter, and she's like, oh, Cambie, it's almost time for Call Stars. They're like, oh, I just have a few more minutes. I can see you need to jump into Call Stars, because they know no matter what, that's where I'm at, and I'm insistent on that. So the acts of freedom really helped me to know, okay, I can break this down and make it work. And then my big epiphany on that, Carl, was just last week with Coach Diane. I was working on my annual planning for next year for 2025. And now I've got my second version of my business plan. And the epiphany was this: I'm writing out all of the activities that I need to be doing. And I'm almost trying to justify the space. I'm like, okay, a year ago, I was like, I can't fit this all in. I cannot achieve all this. Like, it's too much. And now I'm like, okay, well, I'm not doing fulfillment anymore, which was killing my day. It was taking a good half of my day just pushing conditions and calling the client on the littlest things. That's not my role anymore. So now I do have plenty of time for my DSP. And now I have time for my true passion right now with my clients are the annual mortgage reviews. And that's great. And it does help. I know I do have my assistant, Tara. I know, like, even today, she messaged me. She's like, I know you said you wanted 5 AMRs, annual mortgage reviews, for this week. She says, how about 8? She says, I got 8 for you already. So it becomes almost like we've gamified it in a sense with weekly scorecards and such, where she's helping to set up the appointments, which then helps me. So when I'm on the phone with my client, I've already had a time arranged to respect the client's time so that it's focus time, So if I'm going to call a client just off the cuff and just say, hey, this is Cambie calling, I'm just checking in on you to see how you're doing. And let's take a look at where you're at and make sure you're in the best spot with your mortgage, all that. We never know. Maybe that client, maybe he's at work. Maybe he's in the middle of dropping something off and they're just not focusing on that. But if I can respect the client's time, and I know this is a big Steve Kyle thing. I learned from Steve Kyle. Steve Kyle's is, if you can pre-arrange those meetings, you're going to get so many more in there and it will be more meaningful conversation. And then the one thing I've added into my AMR, which has really shifted the needle for referrals, is adding the simple question with the client. As I'm chatting with them, I just pause it out. I say, I'm curious. Are you happy in your home? And I just shut up. I just let it pause out. And it's interesting, Carl, the number of clients that will pause as well. And they're like, they say, it's interesting you asked me that question. No, we're not happy in our home. Maybe they're wanting to downsize. Maybe their kids are off at university and they're like, just too big, too much space. We want to sell our house. Or maybe they're growing and they're like, we've outgrown this house.
Hey there. Hey, if you're loving the tips so far, be sure to hit that subscribe button right down there and then tap the little bell so that you never miss out on more free, cool tips coming your way. Also, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment beneath there. Let me know what you think or tell me what you'd like to hear next.
So for me, it's a very easy process then to say, hey, let's take a look at some options for you. Like, you're in this house, it's worth, say, 500,000. I can see, like, based on the numbers we've updated, you should easily fit in that 700 mark. If it's an upsize, say, can I have a professional come and just take a look? They're not going to charge you a penny, a realtor, come and do an assessment of your property. And they're like, of course, and it's respecting, if they're like, I have a realtor I already work with. The far majority of clients that I'm working with, they're more than happy for me to have a realtor come in and do the assessment. So guess what I'm doing? As soon as I hang up the phone, I'm calling a realtor, so I'm referring that client to the realtor for them to make their connection with the client and establish rapport. And that's business for the client, for the realtor, hopefully. So it's one of those things that initially that wasn't the purpose of me asking, are you happy in your home? But by me doing that, it's not salesy. If a realtor were to call that client and call and say, hey, Bill, are you happy in your home? This is Mr. Realtor. That's super salesy. As a loan officer, it's not salesy at all. I'm asking them, are you happy in your home? And they're like, no. Well, let's fix that problem. So
that's a great simple question. A great way of prospecting. Hey, let me ask you. Let me kind of backpedal here just a little bit. I was just sitting here thinking, going from like, and we don't talk about basis points or how much we make per loan or anything like that, but I'll let everybody insert in their own number. But going from say 3 loans to 9, that's a 300% return or a 300% increase in your income. And I don't care what somebody makes, you put a ×3 behind that number, and apparently like a 10-month period. That's remarkable. Like, how does that feel going from, and again, not mentioning your specific income numbers, but going from the income that 3 loans generates to the income that 8, 9, or 10 loans generate? Anything different?
I sleep better at night. I love knowing that my kids are taken care of. I love knowing that if my husband wants to take early retirement, and we're chatting about that, maybe, if he wants to do that, it's a reality that can happen if we want to go that way. I'm at the point now where I'm wanting to give back. So I want to be helping more in the community. If it's donating, probably not of my time at this point, but until this point, it's been a lot of donating of my time. I was very involved with Rotary, and I am involved in the community, but not as much now. But I financially can help others out there. It's good for me. And also the other thing that's really important for me, Carl, is my true passion lies in giving back and giving back to the mortgage community. So if I have enough revenue coming in that I'm comfortable growing out my team, and I've already told my team this, I'm like, you know what? I'm happy eventually. Let's go where I'm taking maybe 30% of the commission. You guys taking the 70. Let's figure, we're going to switch this the other way around, because my true passion is to have a team that is operating the mortgage end of things, and that financially I have enough to pay the bills and go on a few trips here and there. I'm blessed in that way. But for me to have more time, for me to build valuable resources out, say to the mortgage industry, to other loan officers, because I've learned a few things over the last 27 years, and I feel that obligation now that I want to share that. And having that extra money is going to give me that time that I can say, okay, I've got 2 hats now. I'll still be the loan officer. I love my prospecting. I love chatting with my clients. I don't see myself giving up that part of things for a very long time. But by not doing the other stuff that I've cut out of that acts of freedom, I can take time where I'm building resources for my clients. I have a few guides. I've got one I'm building for clients going through separation divorce. And, if you're going through separation divorce, what are some things to know? Or what are some products out there for spousal buyout of a mortgage, all that fun stuff. So valuable information that I can give to attorneys, I can give to the lawyers out there that are working with their clients, that they can then have that guide to say, hey, talk to Cambie. She can help figure the financial thing for you out, Another
Mhm.
thing is working with the self-employed community out there for them, like a guide on how to purchase properties when you're self-employed, and even going into
Mm.
commercial financing and giving those not directly to the client per se, but to the accountants out there, you know? So accountants that have a large client base of self-employed clients, I can give that to them, you know? And it's a great reason
Mm.
for me to stay in touch.
Mm.
Stay in touch with
So
the
I like the extra income with the time piece. You know, I was it's funny you bring that up. Just this morning, I love your story, by the way, and I love your gratitude that starts your morning. I was out on my bicycle this morning. I go for a bike ride pretty much every morning. I'm here in Florida where we can do that pretty much year round, right? Because it's in the summertime it's a little warm, but in the wintertime it's kind of pleasant. And I was out on my bike ride literally just this morning, and I go through a gratitude. That's why we get along so well, Cambie. I go through a gratitude thing too. I think it's a big deal. I know it is. And I was thinking this morning, you know, Steve Jobs,
Mm,
uh, what an amazing accomplishments that man made, right?
mhm.
And he died at the age of 56,
Yeah.
worth $11 billion with a B, and he gave it all to be out there on that bicycle this morning
Yep.
alongside of me, all of
Yeah.
it, just for one more day, one more
Mhm.
day.
Mhm.
And so that time is a really really big deal. By the way, so are you familiar with the five love languages? Do you know what that
Yeah,
is?
don't ask me to give you all five, but yeah, I've heard of it. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So five love languages. Boy, I'm going to be. It's scary to do this off of memory. So the five love languages are time,
Mhm.
uh, words of affirmation, gifts, physical touch. What am I missing? And acts of service.
Mm, mhm.
Acts of service. So time, words of affirmation, gifts, physical touch, and action. Doing having some people doing something for you. I'm just curious. What is it? In reading that book, it was like there. We all have like one primary. We like all of them, right? Acts of service. Like who doesn't like somebody to go clean their house for them or something like that, you know? But they say that like we tend to have a primary and then maybe a secondary that's pretty close to that. I'm just curious, what's your love language? What's your primary, do you think? Time, words, gifts, physical touch, acts of service.
Time, I know we chatted about it already. Time is a big thing for me, just to have
Yeah,
time. And some of it has just been, I've been pushing hard, the last
yeah.
15, 20 years of my life. And as a mom with kids and very involved in the community, I feel like, I push hard, and just having just small moments are very meaningful for me. Um, Giving is a big thing, because I know it's one of those things. If I'm just sitting here producing and money is adding up in the bank, that's all a good thing. It's my first world problem, I guess. But for me to go the next step and say, well, how can I have agency? How can I help those around me? That's a big thing for me. I actually just my last business card set, I wrote on the back of my card, kind of my why for my clients, as far as what I want to do as far as giving to the client, to have that small piece to play in their happiness. And what I wrote on the back of my card as my goal with my clients are to help you streamline your finances so you can live more freely, give more generously, and be present for the ones you love.
Mm.
And it's trying to embody that when I'm chatting with my clients. So if I have a client like just this week, she called and she FaceTimed me in their brand new house, just got the keys, and she's crying. Like, she is so excited. And I said, have you taken any photos? She's like, No, she's like, well, I said, you need to take photos. This is your first house. You're going to remember this day for the rest of your life.
Mm,
And she's literally FaceTiming from room to room to room, showing me her new house. And I felt so honored to be a part of that because I'm helping that family streamline their finances so they can live more freely, give more generously, be present for the ones they love. You know, that they have their own little piece on this earth that's theirs, that's growing in equity. It's going to be a nest egg for them and just being a small part of that. So we don't just push numbers. We don't push paper. These are
mhm,
lives behind each deal that we work on, and to know that if we do it in the right way, then we're creating a positive impact for those all around us, you know. And
mm,
it's not to pat yourself on the back and say, yeah, this is, this is what I've done. It's you're doing it because it's the right thing to do. Like if that's my mom and dad looking for a mortgage, how would I process that
mm.
mortgage? You know, that's just,
The
it's the right
old
thing to do.
the old do unto others thing. So hey, well, just in kind of wrapping this up here, so if you're running like 9-ish now per month, and what I heard you say was, hey, 15, I feel like is my next step,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like
I
you
can do
you saying
15.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anything you have to do different at 15 that you're not doing at 9, or is it just, hey, if we just fast forward, keep doing the same activities that I'm doing now, 9 will become 15. Anything different?
It's a little of both. We've already ramped up, and I'll give you a quick, very cool analogy on that. But it would be building the team out a little bit more. So, like, for example, my assistant who has been part-time this last year, as of next week, she's officially full-time. And I have another fulfillment officer who's coming in. So that will more than enable me to get to that 15. A
Yeah.
real quick analogy is years ago, I was much more fit than I am today. I'm somewhat still fit, but
I
back
was
in
gonna say,
my strong,
I think you look great. So just as I do.
okay, okay. Back in the days when I did, worked as a loan officer and taught fitness classes and did crazy fitness challenges, as groups, what we would do is we'd get those big semi tires. They're heavy and they're taller than I'm 5'7". They're big mothers. And what we would do is you would pick this tire up to its side, and then you would roll it. Okay. I cannot physically pick one of those big tires up. They're they're far, far too high or too heavy for me. But the group would come together and you'd call if that was your role. Okay, got to get this tire from A to B, about 100 yards down across the field. Then you would call your compadres come in and they would help heave and hoe. And it's still hard. You have maybe 3 or 4 of us lifting it up. And then the next step after that is creating the direction. So I can see where that tire needs to be. So helping shove it to the right direction. And that initial off your shoulder, that initial shove, it's tough. Like you're pushing hard in the dirt to get that wheel going. And then it starts rolling. And all you're having to do is just give it little taps, and you're running along with it and you're tapping and tapping. But you have to be careful if you do it on your own. I'm 5'7". This tire is, I don't know, 6.5 feet. I can't see where this tire is going. I need someone in front of me to say, Cambie, you're going too far right or too far left. And I start adjusting it, because I want to get from where I am to the destination as efficiently as possible. Okay. So I've got that team member there as well. But then the big thing is you've got this momentum. Okay. And that tire is pretty heavy and it's starting to go on its own with minimal effort on my behalf on that at that point. But for me to then place that tire at the end, I still need a team members at that end there to say, okay, we're going to slow down that tire. We're going to put it where it belongs. Boom.
Mm.
Right. If I did that on my own, I'd be zigzagging. I probably eventually would make it where it's supposed to be, but it would be highly inefficient going back and forth trying to find my way. And then at the end, I probably would have smashed past where I should be because I can't stop it on my own. So
Mm.
it's building a team and knowing again what got me here is a little different than what's going to get me to 15 deals a month, but I'm heading in that direction, and I know I have the team that's supportive of me to get there. Mhm.
Good stuff. Hey, Cambie, is there something I should have asked you today that I didn't?
Hmm.
Did we cover it?
I know, maybe just my favorite little quote. How about that?
Tell me your favorite quote.
Okay. My favorite quote, and this is an oldie. I've been saying this to myself every day for years and years, and that is, don't let what you can't control get in the way of what you can. Simple as that. For me, a lot of things in life fill our minds with mostly stuff we can't control. And we're stressing about things that either happened in the past or worrying about, okay, what if this, what if that, that might happen in the future. And we're not focusing on what we need to do that's within our control right now. And what I explain to my kids and to my clients when you're in that situation is rocking chair races or rocking horse races. Sorry. So if you're sitting on a rocking horse and you're racing that rocking horse and you're expending a ton of energy, but you're not going anywhere. You know, it's taking all that energy
Mm,
working on stuff that is beyond our control. You know, it's stuff that it's going to happen no matter what. If that might be in our industry, if it's the change in the housing industry. For myself, last year, losing my three top realtors, three top realtors
mm,
I lost that are just no longer in the industry and having to dig out of that hole, you know, um,
mm,
things that I can't control, but what can I control? I can hit the phones, you know, I can wake up in the morning, thank you with my feet as I set them on the ground. Thank you. You know, I
mm,
can try in small ways to working with my team just to find ways to empower them that my assistant now could say, okay, you know, I'm going to get my license. You know, she can become a pre-approval person and she can then work on her own deals and grow. And I'm so excited for her. So excited.
mm. Well, my friend, congratulations on your great success. You're such an inspiration. And I have to tell you, Candy, it couldn't happen to a nicer person. So you're worthy of all this greatness and much more. And I'm really excited to see what 2025 has got in store for you. I bet it's going to be pretty cool stuff, though. So thanks for hanging out with us here on the episode.
Thanks, Carl, and thank you guys for having a big role to play in this last year. It's
Mm.
good. It's all good.
All right. And for our listeners that are listening to this today, if you want me to walk you through a business plan, the same business plan that Campy's working on, if you just go to loanofficerbusinessplan.com, loanofficerbusinessplan.com, just tell me where to send it to, and I'll send you my famous one-page business plan. And then once you tell me where to send it to, I'll email it and or I'll text it to you. And in addition to being, it's a free download. You don't have to buy anything. It's a free download. And so once you download it, then there's also a video where I'm going to walk you through it, right? This is all just a random act of coolness, totally free. So loanofficerbusinessplan.com, loanofficerbusinessplan.com. So go there, download the one-page business plan, and I'll walk you through it again on a video right there on that same page. Just tell me where to send everything, and I'll send that to you. Just from my way of saying thanks for watching, being part of this episode, and for letting me and Cambie spend a little bit of time with you here today. So loanofficerbusinessplan.com. Don't miss out on that. And I'll see you on the inside, and I'll see you right here on the next episode of Loan Officer Freedom. Thanks again. Bye bye.